I didn't know I was poor until I was 9 years old. I was living in this little town called Hilo, Hawaii, a sugar plantation town. And the reason I knew I was poor is I went to a rich white school. And it just happened the way the lines drawn in the school districting. So I am in school with all these rich white kids. So the way you know you're poor is I had a junk bike, they had new bikes. Their parents belonged to the yacht club or the country club, and I was a caddy at the country club. You know what I mean? It's the classic story, but I didn't know it was that stark. The story of Rich Dad, Poor Dad is like, my poor dad was the head of education for Hawaii, smart guy, PhD. But I wasn't smart. That's a big problem. You know, they just say the cobbler's kids has no shoes, and I had no brains. I hated school. And then my rich dad was my best friend's father. And the two of them came together because I was 9 years old. And one day I raised my hand in the 4th grade, and I asked my teacher, I said, when am I going to learn about money? And the teacher says, well, we don't teach money at school. You know, I can almost hear her say, the love of money is the root of all evil, you know? And she gave me this religious stuff. So then I got a little bit upset. So finally she says to me, she goes, well, why don't you ask your father? After all, he's my boss. You know, he was the head of education. So I go to ask my old man. He says, well, when am I going to learn about money? And he says, we don't teach kids about money in school. I said, why not? He goes, because the government tells us what I can teach you. And that's why we have such a financial crisis on our hands. And so the reason I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad way back when was I could see this financial crisis coming. I predicted the biggest market crash in history would come on 2016, plus or minus 3 years. 2016, plus or minus a few years. So that's why I'm glad you guys are here, because at least you're getting ahead of the curve. You know? And so I went to meet my rich dad one day because my classmate was my best friend, and he was part Asian, I'm Asian. He drove his son to school in a dump truck. And Rich Dad's son was so embarrassed because the rich white kids have the nice cars, the Ford station wagons with the panels on them and all this stuff. But it was my poor dad, the PhD, who says, your friend's father will someday be a rich man. And I said, why is that? He says, because he's an entrepreneur. And I said, what's an entrepreneur? He says, somebody doesn't need a job. And I said, what are you? To my father. And he says, I'm an employee. And so the twain started, the whole world started to split apart to me. And I went to ask Rich Dad about money.
It was at that moment that Rich Dad shared the pivotal point of view that separated him from his employees and my poor dad, and led him to eventually become one of the richest men in Hawaii. The poor and the middle class work for money. The rich have money work for them.
Hey guys, Nick Nanton here, host and producer of In Case You Didn't Know. In case you didn't know, the full episode can be enjoyed right now on Amazon Prime, and I invite you to join me there. Also, if you liked this short clip, I'd love for you to leave a comment below and share it with your friends. See you on Amazon Prime. Take care.